Hello, 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 everybody. This is just, my name is Diane Lang. I'm the owner and founder of Wisdom of the Akashics, Spiritual Wisdom 101. And actually, I'm what would be defined as a multipreneur, I guess, because I actually have quite a few passions. Most of you would be watching this video would be coming through Wisdom of the Akashics, and somebody that has maybe been a part of, interested in experiencing the twin flame journey, which has been my experience that started in, well, I met my twin flame in 2011, and we started communicating in 2013, and it was probably 2015 when somebody actually said the word to me, twin flame, where it had a definition of what all this craziness might have had an explanation is actually, I guess, what it was. I'm hoping that I'm having a little trouble getting my microphone. Hopefully, I tend to have a very soft voice, so maybe turn up the volume a little bit, because when I go to render it, I often have to go fix it. So I'm kind of stepping back into doing videos, and it was in resistance to this whole experience for quite some time, especially over the last year when a lot of things changed in terms of how things were between myself and my twin, and seeing him, because I used to see him 4 to 10 times a day, and or more, and to nothing. And there was a lot of confusion that went along with that, grieving, doubt, none of this is real, all that type of stuff. So I just want to check something here because, okay. I'm not really familiar with doing lives. I do some on another platform, but so hopefully this is working in either way. As long as it gets uploaded, you guys can watch it whenever. I was telling a friend of mine earlier today that all my videos used to be done in my office privately. I never hardly ever edited anything out of them unless I knew I just completely flubbed up. But there was a whole process of doing them in private and then uploading them and thumbnailing them. And there's a lot of stuff that you do to, bring the audience to you and stuff like that. And then I realized that there's not much difference for me to sit in front of the camera and do this live, other than then people can maybe come on, and then at that time you do get some questions and stuff. And that's very common, for example, on Facebook. People start jumping on, and then their questions and comments can direct where you want to go with your discussion. This one is about understanding sacrifice inside of the twin flame journey. I actually did a couple videos and talks yesterday, so I'm feeling very low on energy today, but there's just this draw to have this conversation. And I did two last week actually, and I did them on my phone, and then they wouldn't upload into YouTube. And so I'll try to do those ones again. They were actually really, really good topic. And one of them was sacrifice and, understanding the path of the twin flame and the pain that goes along with it, I guess. We can say, because the fact of the matter is, there's some people that are in union. There's some people that have made it to their bliss with their twin flame. But the percentage of us on the earth are in either coming towards union, managing separation, confusion. There's a lot of negative ion energy that is going on the earth. And negative ion energy, and I talked about this in a completely different conversation yesterday, is about when you want to look at your behavior or what's maybe driving your story, you start asking, it's like, what is negative ion energy? What am I, like when I do clearing work for people, when I work in their Akashic records, which I do more in the field, in the matrix now than I do on a physical level at all. It's advanced so much. If you're interested in that, just reach out to me and ask more about that. But when you're, I've just lost my thought. I guess when you're in I'll just keep talking here, but in the twin flames, a lot of people are in, the negative ion energy. So, you have addiction, obsession, possession, depression, oppression, suppression, manipulation, deception. A lot of the ion words are negative ion energy words, and you really want to watch for them. And so if you want to look at how am I behaving in something, it's a really valuable question to ask yourself is, what negative ion energy am I running? And I'll give you an example. You're obsessed with checking their Facebook page. That's an obsession ion, obsess ion. Depress ion, repress ion, suppress ion, okay? And they're really valuable for us to get some really great information from, because once you have identified something, you're in a position of power to work on that, improve it, evaluate it, get better at it, look at it. And I guarantee you, twin flames run quite a lot of obsession and a possession, depression, that suppression, wanting them to do something different than what they're doing, control, manipulation, not happy with the choices they're making, maybe staying in the relationship that they're in, being loyal to the karmic rather than to their heart. That's actually not uncommon in this journey. And part of it is that a lot of people don't realize is once you take human form, it's kind of like all rules are off, okay? Everybody really runs with this. Everything happens for a reason. And I kind of say, yeah, until you're human. Because you just can't apply human nature and choices and pain and trauma and upset, and maybe you've been left behind, maybe you've been cheated on, maybe you've been, all of those human experiences are already all in place before you walk eye to eye with your twin. And I was 51 years old when I walked eye to eye with my twin, and literally by a couple weeks. And so what was interesting about that, I was actually told about him when I was 21. I've talked about this in another video where I was like, I remember going like, are you serious? Like, are you telling me I'm not going to meet my, like the most special person in my heart until I'm like in my 50s? Like, am I going to be single, alone, whatever? And I remember that's when I really learned about, having people plant seeds in your head. And as somebody that works psychic intuitively, I caution a lot of what you let somebody plant in your mind. And that's why I never answer for somebody, is this my twin? Because it's like, that's just relinquishing your power on such a deep level. You can ask questions to help identify if you are in a relationship that's got a higher purpose, sets, it's coming from your soul, feels like your other half, really has something about it that's so unique. Twins have very intense eye contact. They speak through eyes. They have high telepathy. These are ones that are allowing them not to have a lot of interference, for one thing. So that's a factor for sure, right? But there's a lot of factors that you can say, well, I'd be having a conversation. Why are you asking about that person? And there's a lot of what I call twin jumpers. And is this my twin? Is this my twin? Is this my twin? It's like, oh my God, you're not getting it at all if you're doing that. First of all, you probably don't even have one, because they affect us at such a core level that you can't jump around. And actually, once you've met your twin, you can hardly go anywhere else, period. And to a degree, it kind of sucks. When you have that love for somebody that's just poof, so immediate, so intense, so aware, so acknowledgeable, so mutual, so everything. And you haven't even ever had anything like that happen to you, ever. And, and I even remember when I was in communication in the beginning, when he said to me, I don't understand. I've been married for 22 years and I've never felt like this. And this wasn't from intimacy. This was from what happened to us when we saw each other. We both had love at first sight. He said to me, I looked up at you, and he was with the same woman and never married. They never married. She had chosen not to marry him. He had asked and he had given up asking. And it was a painful experience for him to be. He described himself as, I'm good enough to have 3 kids with, but I'm not good enough to marry. And so he had a lot of pain in being loved inside of a relationship. So those were his wounds, not trusting, thinking that there's something more, could be more meaningful than this. And because he's a loyal, very loyal man, and puts his children first and stuff, it was really difficult for him to understand what had happened to him when we met, and why we could finish each other's sentences, and why when he looked at me, he'd say, the longing for you is so incredible, and I get so sad when you leave. I used to hang out with him at his office all the time, and he'd say, I can't even get in my car and drive home, because he'd have to compose himself because of the sadness that he felt when I walked away from him. He'd say, when you get in your car and drive away from here, I feel like I'm going to cry. And I always used to think that was so cool that he was willing to admit that, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And it showed that he was definitely in tune with a lot of things. So this conversation's around some of it's around sacrifice, though, and understanding, what are you sacrificing to be in a twin relationship? And in all honesty, you're sacrificing the willingness to let your heart be completely open and vulnerable without being attached to the outcome. So we get attached to the union. We get attached to where they are, what they're doing, the choices that they're making, they're staying. And, I've had people that have come to work with me and done sessions with me, and they're adamant they're not leaving their relationship that they're in, and they're clear about it. And it's like, I think clarity is amazing, right? I honestly think you have so much more to work with when you have clarity. But when you have the clarity that you're the twin that's not going anywhere, you really need to let the other person go, because it's like, well, I'm not leaving my relationship, but I get jealous when they're in one. Well, that's human, but it's not fair. It's normal in some ways because you're human, but it's not an appropriate energy to have in your relationship. You question who they're with. Well, why are they going out with that girl? And then you might always have that question in your mind of, are you willing to leave or stay? But some people are not. They're not going to leave their children for this. And regardless of what the soul decided in advance, this is a piece that's really important. In advance, we would have agreed to incarnate. We would have agreed to find each other. We would have agreed to, cross the mountains and the streams to do it, find each other, end up living in a city where you found each other, moved back to your hometown, whatever it is, met somewhere where you and had that impactful connection. And then, but the human story, my twin was 10 years younger. So, he's 41, I'm 51. he's in a relationship where he has a 22-year-old child, a challenged child at the time. He has emotional challenges. So it ups their level of concern, commitment, willingness to put them self on the back burner for the sake of their family and their kids. I'm not a big person for proponent for signing up to be unhappy for the sake of loyalty and all of that. I actually don't think the soul does that, but the human does it. The human does it for sure. And because if the soul was in an agreement to follow its heart and its bliss when it came here, it wouldn't be staying in unhealthy, unloving, unfulfilling relationships. And some of us wouldn't be staying alone. And so when your twin stays and you realize that they're not going anywhere, or you're not going anywhere, or they're keep getting hooked up with, controlling people, and then people will send me requests to do clearings to clear a third party, and think that the energy work that I will do will just make somebody go away, and that person has to change their behavior. The work that I do is it's clearing the field. So what that means is it's very much like the matrix. It's a field of information. The Akashic records are vibrational information. It's the story of your soul held in account in the universe, okay? And so anybody that reads Akashic records like I do, ultimately we're interpreting them, which is why we can have a different experience from one Akashic record to person to the other. What I would say to anybody is you want to work with somebody you resonate with, and that's going to bring the Akashic records forward the way you need them. Some people need really third dimensional information. In a past life, you were a man, you cheated on her, you lost her trust, and now in this lifetime she doesn't have any trust for you, for example. Very third dimensional experiential information. That's how I started reading the Akashic records. They don't really come to me like that anymore. I see them as fields of information. So I see the energy of the confusion and the addiction, and I see them as masses. And it's like I defrag. That's what I've kind of come to define myself as, it's like a human virus scanner, and then you defrag that information. And if you want to know what defrag is, if you're not, don't, just go watch a video. It's when a computer has all of these bytes of information that are like all over the place, scattered everywhere, files, nothing's in order, everything's confusing, nothing's been categorized. It's all this information, which is all those lifetimes and all of that, and there's no order to it. So it's hard to get order from it and clear information. So when you run a defrag on a computer, it takes out all the empty spaces and it fills them up with information that has space that has. So it's like the empty space would be white, for example, and the information would be blue, and it would be white, 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 blue, white, blue, blue, white, white, blah, 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 blah. Okay. A defrag takes it and goes blah, 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 puts it in order. This layer is all blue now. It's all clear information. It's been cleared of debris. It's the ion information's been cleared. But what upholds it, I can clear it, but what upholds it is your vibration, your choices, your willingness to be different, your willingness to let go, be the one of unconditional love. And there's a whole thing about unconditional love. And some people have been taught that unconditional love means you accept shit, and it doesn't. Doesn't mean that you signed up to be abused. It doesn't mean that you agree to be treated poorly. It means you love that person where they're at under all conditions, not that you accept poor behavior because of where they're at. There's a very big difference there, and I hope that that piece resonates for people, and that you can really look at that if you're in that story on either side of it. Because it's not the soul karmic. When people think that they came back here to, an eye for an eye karma, that's very third dimensional karma anyways, and it really doesn't serve the soul. I call that karmic continuation versus karmic correction. Karmic correction was I was a bad guy in another lifetime, so I'm going to come back and be a good one in this lifetime. Or somebody harmed me in another lifetime and brutally affected my life in another lifetime. And so karmic continuation is I'm going to come back and brutally affect someone in this lifetime. No. Very hard on the soul. Repeating karma that you're actually still going to have to go correct versus somebody, you know, for example, maybe violently abused you in another lifetime. And so you don't come back in as abuser, you come back as somebody who would support the victims of violence in this lifetime because your soul understands that pain. Okay? It understands. So people that come to me are ready for soul level information. It's not very often they're not. Sometimes I have to learn to speak and you know, kind of say at a level that's more layman for somebody to understand what I'm passing on to them. But ultimately, if you work with me, you come for soul level clearing information and wanting that kind of virus defrag operation system. So you're operating from a higher vibration of love and harmony and trust and acceptance and allowance and forgiveness and compassion and kindness and all of that. That's where we feel better at the end of the day, even in depression. And I have suffered from a lot of it. And I'm just actually starting to privately share that story and share it a little openly, but more privately. And that I take place that in my Facebook stuff. But it's like I've still always been kind to people. It's more my nature to be kind initially. I get frustrated with things. I don't like telemarketers and things like that. And I don't like pushy, aggressive people. I have bad days. I've said shit that just amazed me after it came out of my mouth. I've hurt people and not apologized. And then I've also taken full responsibility for all sorts of stuff in my life because I know that I go to bed sleeping better when I do that than when I don't do that. And when you get older and you work in healing arts and you really want to be the example that you seek to see in the world, this stuff becomes really important. And one of my teachers, one of the ones I studied my Akashic records with, would say your word to yourself is actually the most important one of all. Because as soon as your word to yourself is not in integrity, or you're not being honest with yourself, you're not taking responsibility, you're not being forgiving or compassionate, yet you're being judgmental is usually what's happening on the other side of it. Well, then you're going to be in a state of where happiness doesn't really have a place to reside in there. You can be happy through ignorance and greed and all sorts of stuff, but that's not what we're talking about. And that's not the kind of experience you want to have with your soul, with the man that you love or the woman that you know that you're just down this giant rabbit hole for. So part of the sacrifice is really all you're doing is sacrificing the vulnerability of your heart, accepting them where they are and loving them no matter what they choose. That's actually unconditional love. Being disconnected and unattached to their ultimate choice, because no matter what we would have agreed to as souls, we stepped into a human incarnation, and then a shit show could come along with it, especially if you ended up in a certain kind of family, parts of the world. There's people on the earth that are barely, we have such modern technology in places like where I'm from in Canada, and there's people that still live without running water. And there's millions and millions, hundreds of millions of them. My mind goes, what? How can we have the technology and everything that we have and have that be the case? Well, that's because a lot of bad people have been running the show, and that's a completely different conversation. But so it's, what are you sacrificing? You're probably not really sacrificing anything except the vulnerability of being truly accepting in your heart no matter what. And you know what? When you give your twin the freedom to make their choices without you being a victim to them, that allows them some soul space that they won't get if we're going to sit over here and be poor me. You didn't pick me. How could you not pick me? How could you stay where you are? You mustn't have meant what you said. You must have been lying when you said you loved me. That's one thing I can tell you. I don't have those experiences. I go through doubt and things like that. But once I understood what a twin flame was and the twin journey, and that it carries this kind of higher purpose, which just made sense to me, and the telepathy and our willingness to have these conversations, and I could talk to him. I wish I would have known about twin flames when we were in communication. We would have really hit this subject hard, because we never really understood it other than we knew it was really unique and special and beautiful. That's actually what we would describe it as when we were being open and having those conversations. He wouldn't have that conversation with me right now because he has chosen to stay where he is. And now he's in a position where he's doing it through helping somebody through an illness and stuff. So, and that's his beautiful human side. That is the man that I fell in love with. That's the man that you would want to put you first when you were ill. And does it looks like it's sucking the life out of him. He hasn't looked healthy for a long time. He used to look so beautiful when I looked at him because he would light up and he'd say to me, you do something. It's like this thing happens, and he'd stand aside. He'd stand far across the room from me with his fists clenched, holding his hands down like this. And right before I would leave and stuff, and I'd say, why are you doing that? And he'd say, because I want to unleash myself on you, and I don't understand it. I've never felt this way before. I don't want you to go, but I know that the day that we step forward into something is also the day I never live in the same house as my children again. And there's some truth to that, and there's some not truth to that. There's a big thing about parents, about men not feeling they're going to get get access to their children and stuff like that. And I knew that was hugely frightful for him to think that. But he knew that he wasn't going to be able to sleep in the house with her as a partner once he's taken on me as a partner, because he wasn't going to leave that relationship until he separated. Like, I wasn't entering one with him in his relationship, and he wasn't going to enter with me until he left his relationship. And in the end, he's not done that. And I'm telling you, there has been some days that has sucked, especially when you see him deteriorating in his happiness and you realize you were actually a piece of what made him happy, why he did feel better about himself, that he understood that he could actually feel love at a level he didn't even know. I think that no matter what happens and how long you're on the earth, if you ever got a taste of true love, you have been given a gift. End story. A gift. Because some people never get that. You can get it from a parent to a certain degree, but even parental love is conditional. And you can get it from, having a certain level of degree in your siblings. I'm talking about the intimate, unconditional, that piece where you just allow them to be who they are. You don't try to change them. You accept your differences. You go root for your the things that you have in common. You're willing to allow them to grow and expand, whether or not you're necessarily going to be a part of it. And that's actually what separates a lot of people, is one partner. I don't mean twins. I just mean people. One partner starts to grow and expand and the other one stays the same. It will ultimately cause a barrier that a lot of people won't be able to come back from, because the person that's growing and expanding, once you get to a certain point, isn't going to go backwards anymore. If you can be completely detached from your spouse or partner coming along in your expansion with you, that's different. And some people are. They're like, my husband's never going to wake up. I love him anyways. And when I go and I do this, I take my courses, I go with my girlfriends, I see my psychic, whatever it is that you do, you be part of healing arts. You live a life outside of that, because some people can stay happy and quite content in a relationship and not need a lot of love to be present. And that to me that's what your human is okay with. And then there's some people that's not okay at all. Your human is not okay with that at all. I'm one of those people. My dad used to describe me as somebody who couldn't settle down. And later in life, and at a table once in a restaurant, I said, you know, Dad, it gets really old. It's not that I couldn't settle down. It's that I've never been willing to settle. And he actually needed me to explain that to him a little bit. What the hell does that mean? It means that I don't settle. It means if I'm not happy, I go make a change. It means if I'm not being treated properly, if I'm not in a job anywhere, I go get a different one. I'm not putting out my heart, soul, time, and for a flat rate dollar an hour and then being treated poorly simultaneously for it. Like my brain would be like, why would you do that? And I've always believed in my skills to go get another job. It never was economy dependent on me because I would sell stuff on the side. I always had a little business at home, jewelry, lingerie, crystal. You know, I saw this entrepreneurial hat that I would wear to make up for things, and then that would get me through those times. That I was never attached to a career, I guess, in the sense that I ever thought that I wouldn't be able to have another one. Since I've been had some health issues, and I have to move right now. I had back surgery, and since I had breast cancer twice, and since those things, I don't work the same anymore, and I can't last as many hours and all that, but I don't settle nonetheless, you know. And settling for my twin, for example, say settling for crumbs while he stays at home, not my style. He wasn't asking that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that that's what a lot of people do. They take the position of, I'll take anything, I'll take anything, I'll take anything from them. And in all honesty, it doesn't do either side, oh, excuse me, any good at all. You're lowering your soul standards for an agreement you never would have made in the beginning. You never would have agreed to be treated poorly by your twin, regardless. You might have said, well, when we first get there, you know, you've got to heal this wound and I'll help you heal it, and that type of stuff. You know, I believe that, but not to get here, turn into an alcoholic, abusive, ignorant asshole player and then think that I'm going to wait for you. Well, I don't care what my soul would have agreed to. That I know it wouldn't have agreed to that. I'm very clear about that. Sorry, I needed the water. So sacrificing in that pain, and then, you know, that unconditional love piece, that's kind of what I really wanted to talk to you guys about today. And that, you know, evaluate how conditional is my love. And I guarantee you, I don't even care. Parents always say, oh, I love my child unconditionally. No, you don't. You love them more when they do things that you like them doing compared to when they don't. Sorry, that's just the truth. And in actuality, you will love them through things, but you don't unconditionally love them. And if you did, you probably didn't have any boundaries for them on top of it. But parents actually have quite conditional love. Do your homework and you'll get this. You'll get rewarded, listened to, you know, some rope, some freedom, money, because you've conditionally met something. So, you know, it just don't live in the world that it's completely unconditional, because it's generally, I mean, that might not go over very well with people, but it's something to look at, because in truth, then you can say, where am I placing condition on my behavior of myself towards my child? How hard are they having to work at proving themselves, and then having them meet a standard that you've set? So, and that could be, for example, what they're giving me right now is like, you have a standard for their education, and their nature is a car mechanic that needs to go to a trade school for 3 months to get started, but you want them to go to school for 4 years and get a careered, ticketed, or, you know, like some sort of a diploma. That actually might not at all be what they're meant to do, be good at, or otherwise. So you can be sure that falls under a form of unconditional love, or conditional love, sorry. unconditional would saying, I'd hoped for a doctor, but I got a mechanic. It would be like, is he a nice young man? Does he listen? Is he respectful? Does he treat women kind? Does he have manners? Does he keep his word? He, she, they, whatever. Okay. So I started this at 20 after, and it's 5:02. So it's 35 minutes long. I think this is good. I might even get another one in because I'm just back in the saddle some way. And I really appreciate all of you. I thank you. I thank you for subscribing to the channel. And if you haven't yet and you want to catch these videos, hit subscribe. Your comments, you can reach out to me. If you go to Facebook and look up Spiritual Wisdom 101, that's my Facebook page. It comes up Lifestyle Mentors because that's also my business. I work with people in personal development program. And but I help twins with their energetic story, their vibration, that unconditional acceptance, navigating the pain, and then clearing their field. And like I said, I'm very upfront. I can go in and I can be like that scanner virus, person and put everything in order. Talk to you about that. Talk to you about what came up in those sessions so you know what to work on, focusing on, letting go, being less conditional around all that thing. And then, but it's your actions going forward, which determines how anybody that does healing work or clearing work for us upholds itself and claims. I can uphold it to a certain level in the field, but your actions uphold it in terms of you and how you are going to be different in the future. And maybe that's not going to have such a charge on you anymore. But if you want to understand this journey more, if you want to talk to me or have sessions with me, liveyourpassion.ca is where I have my sessions. I have them on Fiverr too, but Fiverr takes quite a hunk of our money, and they keep it for weeks on end. And so I don't do much on there. And so I've just made the prices less on my page. And so you're paying less. I'm getting the same, and in essence, and you can book up to 4 sessions with me at one time. Or if somebody wanted to really go into a deep dive personal Akashic record growth process with me, I can actually customize programs and work with you on that level also. So God bless you and your journey and your twin, and understanding and navigating this experience from a place of unconditional love and not victimhood. And that's really, when you empower yourself, I'll tell you what, that's when you know you've done well for your twin, because they are a mirror reflection of us. They do receive our energy. They match it. There was days I would know this isn't my sadness for sure. I know it's not my sadness. I'm not sad, but I'm feeling really, really sad. And I could feel it. And inevitably, he'd either drive by and look really sad, or write me a note and say, I feel sad today, or I miss you, or come to the window so I can see what I'm missing. Like, he used to send me notes like that because he would go by my house a lot. So anyways, God bless each one of you. Diane Lang, Wisdom of the Akashics, liveyourpassion.ca. Like the channel. Very, very happy to have you guys here. I just went over 500 subscribers, so that was pretty exciting for me, because when I first started this channel, I was in so much resistance. And, if you look back to the quality, kind of confidence in that, it was like, hi, I'm Diane. And I was like, it didn't take me very long to get comfortable. I have to say, people say you're very comfortable on camera, be it live or taped or anything. And so I guess that's a way for me to help people, is by using a venue where, when I want to learn something, I go find somebody to watch for a half an hour or an hour. That's what I do. And that's in part why I saw this was something that could definitely be done, that could help others too. So God bless, and see you on the inside. Diane Lang.